Hi, I'm Roz Gerstein. I'm the artist in resident for Glacier National Park for July 2022. I'm delighted to be here. My background is as a documentary photographer and an oil painter, primarily making portraits. In the 50 years that I've been photographing, a lot of my subjects have been women and have reflected the culture, the American culture that I've experienced. And what brought me to Glacier was I wanted to photograph the remarkable women here. In the time that I've been here, it's been 3 weeks now, I have managed to photograph more than 30 different women in very different jobs. I photographed the women in headquarters who keep this place running. That's pretty impressive. This is a 1,000,000-acre park. I have photographed the women in supply who keep everything, all the cabins, all the restrooms, everything, including my lost key got replaced. I have photographed the one thrill was going out with fisheries, the two women who were checking the genetics of some of the trout. I went out with following the trail crew. The trail crew consisted of 3 women who had to pack for a backcountry tour that was going to be 4 days, but sometimes it's 10 days, to make sure the trails are kept open. And they loaded these crates, 55 pounds each, very impressive, included chainsaws that then after all these crates, these 12 crates had to weigh no more than the 55 pounds, give or take a half a pound. And they load them onto trucks. They brought them to the trailhead and they met up with Jill, the mule packer. And Jill's job is to load these 110 pounds balanced on the mule. And then there were 6 mules. I watched her do this by herself and marveled. When I told her about my project and why I was there to photograph, her comment was, "I know why you're here. You're to photograph the badass women of Glacier." That's correct. That summarizes what my project is. And so just watching her get on her horse and ride off so that the trail crew would have provisions while they were working was just very impressive. So my work in the last 50 years has been fairly consistent in that the women are placed in their own environments. They're not a muse. They're not a romantic ideal. I try to portray them as realistically as I possibly can, and I try to form a connection. The idea is that the camera has been basically, instead of a barrier, it's a way to break a barrier. And so connection is very important. So I often interview, or at least listen to, the people I'm photographing. They're not hit and run candids. They are spontaneous in the sense that I'm responding to the moment. But I am personally interested in their lives, and I think it's an important part of a lot of my photographs where I often have quotes that accompany the photographs. The camera has allowed me to go into places that I might normally never get to. So I've traveled the United States. I've done projects in West Virginia, roller girls, roller derby in Seattle, championship season, admiring the courage and strength and camaraderie of those women. I've photographed friends in the midst of relationships, some good, some not so good, but the idea is to portray their experiences. And in a sense, it reflects my own experiences in life as well. A lot of these people were my peers, my friends, my family. And my portraits are different. My oil paintings differ in some ways because those I get to construct in my studio. So they're a little more editorial. I can have a personal opinion that's imposed upon the oil paintings, whereas I don't tend to do that consciously in my photographic portraits. In my photographic portraits, I really do want to reflect the lifetime I've lived. And I think, historically speaking, we go back and look at photographs, and yeah, they do tell us something about the way we've lived, the way we've managed. So the opportunity for me has been to photograph women in these very changing times and changing roles. The parks years ago were primarily staffed by men. So to see women in these varied roles alongside men doing equal work has been wonderful to be documenting. My daughter works in the national park, so I've had the opportunity to visit her frequently in different parks. And what's interesting is to also observe fellow tourists like myself. And so some of my paintings have included my observations. And I have one humorous painting in which I took a snapshot of a tourist photographing at a swimming pool, photographing the distant mountains. And I thought it was humorous that that's how they were observing nature. But generally speaking, I've actually enjoyed seeing how the tourists do, in fact, get involved in the park. They go to these ranger talks. They have their kids be junior rangers. I photographed some of the activities in the park. And it's been great to see that the roles that a lot of the rangers play include education. And tourists are very much connected and participating. And that's been a thrill, having observed and painted the total opposite of what I thought was the experience of nature. So my new paintings should be a different kind of reflection on being here and the people around me. My intention, as I come to the close of this wonderful visit, is to go back to my studio. I have a lot of hundreds and hundreds of photos to process, and to make a selection. Ideally, of course, I will include them on my own website, but provide digital files to the people in the park. If anybody that wants them, uses them, that would be great. I'd love to do an exhibit of this wonderful collection. And also, I'll be selective and make some oil paintings as well, portraits of the women. There are some all beautiful faces, but some remarkable moments. And those I hope to turn into larger portraits, larger oil paintings, and exhibit them and share with my community what these remarkable women do and who they are. I think that's my biggest thrill, and that will be my intention.